Holy moly. It always happens in Baku, doesn't it? It's just, it is too much. It is too much, but it's here. Azerbaijan qualifying report, round 4 of 2019. We've got lots to talk about and not a lot of time to do it, but we've got plenty of juicy stories up and down the grid, and coming into this weekend we knew it was going to be carnage at Baku. Well, we hoped at least. 2016 was a bit of a quiet weekend, but the last 2 years for sure have been mega. So after practice 1, after Russell and the Drain got into a little bit of a scrap, we knew, yeah, it's going to be another season of just chaos in Baku, and that's exactly what we got in qualifying. As always, I'm going to be going through the race result. At the very end of the video, we're going to be doing our drivers of qualifying, if you want to call it that, and who we're going to be almost singling out as the ones to watch for the race. But lots of crazy things happened in this session, so let's go through the times. Q1, you can see on the right-hand side in the bottom corner, Stroll went out in Q1. Grosjean, my boy, painful. He was out in Q1. That was a big shock, but also a big shock. Nico Hülkenberg also out in Q1. The two Williams, perhaps not a surprise, they went out. But the bigger story at the very end of qualifying, well, Q1 this is at least, before we get, there's loads going on. But at the end of Q1, Robert Kubica into the wall through the castle section. This wasn't going to be the last time we're going to see a car doing that in qualifying, but he made a mistake. Questions whether the glare from the sun, you know what the sun is, questions from whether that was almost affecting his, I suppose, sight of the corner, the apex on the inside line of the corner. It is so tight through there anyway, and Kubica as well, I will say, is the only driver on the grid never to have driven this track before, at least in anger. So it was a completely new experience for him. Even guys like Russell, Albon, Norris did it last season. Giovinazzi did it when he was in Formula 2 as well. So he was going in. We're expecting some sort of incident, perhaps, from any driver throughout qualifying. But it was a huge shunt from Robert. Red flag comes out. Luckily, it was at the very end of the session. So to be honest with you, Ricciardo very lucky just to scrape through by the skin of his teeth, did the avocado. But Grosjean and I suppose Magnussen as well, which you can just see only just got through into Q2. Haas not looking great. Renault also not looking great. And considering going into the season, we expected those were the kind of guys that were going to be, I guess, fighting for the rest. Really, after Q1, we knew that this was not going to be your bog standard run-of-the-mill qualifying. So Q2 then, we then saw Gasly. He didn't do any running, and even though on screen that looks a little bit alarming, he has a penalty due to not going on the weighbridge in practice, so he starts from the back anyway. So they just had to do a lap with him. Actually, he was quickest in Q1, so there's pace in that Red Bull, and Gasly actually, I think, was looking quite strong. He did have a toe on the straight, but again, he was looking quite strong. So there's no issue there with Gasly, but he will start from the very back, or from the pit lane indeed. Magnussen P14, Albon 13th, Ricciardo 12th, which all things considered isn't actually a bad job from Daniel Ricciardo, and Carlos Sainz was the final guy that didn't quite make the cut in the McLaren. But McLaren actually, all this weekend, were saying that, you know, this shouldn't really be a circuit that'll suit their car. It's more of a power circuit for the majority of the lap, but actually not looking too bad. You can see Norris as well getting through to Q3. That car, there's some pace there, but there was another big story in Q2, and just like Q1 where Kubica into the wall at the exact same place, another car did it in Q2, and this wasn't someone who was going to be on the back row of the grid. No. It was the complete opposite. The man almost favourite for pole position, Charles Leclerc, smacking his Ferrari into the wall in the exact same place Robert did, and I could already see a few people on social media saying, you know, this is why Kubica shouldn't be in Formula 1, you know, his disability he drives with, you know, really affected him on a street circuit. But then you see one of the most overhyped actually, but I think that's a little bit unfair, but hyped up and talented guys on the grid, so now I'm overhyping him, so that just, yeah, that's great. But Charles Leclerc, bins it, bottles it. Stunned. I'm still stunned right now. The camera pans over to the car in the wall, and you're trying to quickly study who it is. You quickly realise, oh my god, that's a Ferrari. Ferrari shouldn't be there. Then you're thinking, which one is it? And when it was Leclerc, you're thinking, this guy, he cannot catch a break at the moment. He is out of Q2, actually gets through into Q3 because of the lap he did. And this guy was looking mighty quick all weekend. Got through into Q3, but as you would have seen a minute ago on the timing screens, didn't set a lap, obviously. The red flag came out in the middle of Q2, so that did affect a few drivers. A little bit of a touch and go whether Sebastian Vettel would even manage to scrape through because of the cold tyres and how the circuit had evolved, because it was a really lengthy red flag that we saw. Track conditions changed quite dramatically. Drivers were complaining. It was a bit messy, a little bit messy, but it was nice and dramatic, nice and tense, which is exactly what I love about Formula 1, and especially in qualifying, you know. And this year where we expect Ferrari to be up there, we expect Mercedes, and we perhaps expect Red Bull to be behind those guys, it was just a nice added little pinch of just something a little bit special that Baku always does, which just going into Q3 with one Ferrari down, with one Red Bull down, this leaves opportunity already in the weekend to guys like Perez, like the two Alfa Romeos, a chance to already be potentially sniffing at a podium. So we go into Q3 then, and it was looking, perhaps after Q2, that maybe the Red Bull could actually be the car to beat. Turned out that wasn't quite the case. They topped Q1 with Gasly, topped Q2 with Verstappen, but Q3 they could only get 4th. Vettel could only get 3rd. That was quite a surprise, but again, a Mercedes 1-2, which I sound a bit deflated about, and I think actually, if I'm honest with you guys, I tried to be as open with you guys as possible. I really did believe Ferrari were going to have this one. And if Mercedes get a 1-2 again, how are people going to react to that? I mean, thoroughly deserved once again, but I still come away from qualifying thinking, is this another opportunity where Ferrari have missed out? And I'd love to know in the comments, do you guys feel that Ferrari had the best car this weekend? Because I still think they do. Mercedes seem to be better at getting the tyres into the zone, which is a big talking point this season. But yeah, love to know in the comments below what you think. But it was Bottas who took pole position for the 2nd time this season, the only man to do so. Hamilton was P2, Vettel in P3, then came Verstappen. Perez, my driver of the day, came in P5. He's driver of the day because of just the fact that he got P5, to be honest with you. Got that best of the rest. It was so close this weekend. Kvyat got P6. Wanted to put him on the driver of the day. Norris as well, who was in P7. But Giovinazzi out-qualifying Raikkonen on a track that he's only driven around once, I think was a really solid job. So he's up there as well on my driver of the day. Raikkonen was 9th and 10th was Leclerc, who did not set a lap. But my other and my 3rd place driver of the day, I've put George Russell, which I suppose is a bit of a left field shot. Bottas, I thought, could have been a really good fit on here, but considering the extreme limited amount of running that George Russell did, the fact that he was half a second in front of his teammate, I thought was a really good job. And yes, Kubica had his incident and was potentially on a quicker lap, but Russell, I think, really did a good job of turning around this weekend. And finally, before we go, who do you need to keep an eye on for the race? And I'm sure my eyes are going to be on Grosjean. I want to see him coming through the field, but realistically, who do I think is going to be in the headlines, on the screens? And I think these are your boys. You've got Pierre Gasly starting from the pit lane, who I predicted to be on the podium. I still think we could have an utter chaos lap 1. And if this guy is able to just keep his nose clean, early doors, go on a different strategy, I think there's an opening there for Gasly. So I'm expecting him to come through the field. He's a one to watch. Charles Leclerc from P10 has choice of tyre. There's no news on any sort of penalties he's going to have. It's just he's most likely going to start from 10th. Fresh tyres, going for it. This guy is quick around this circuit. I think he should have been on pole position, or would have been on pole position rather. Yeah, Hopefully that made sense. And Alex Albon as well. We've seen Toro Rosso look particularly good this weekend, and Albon a little bit deflated to be 13th, a little bit deflated to be behind Daniel Ricciardo, so I think he'll be trying to gun for it in the race. But Ricciardo himself, I think, will be really trying to save some points, rescue some points for Renault. And Hulkenberg also is not a bad shout, starting from P18. So there's lots of stories in this race. Who is going to claim victory in Azerbaijan? Let me know in the comments below. It's completely wide open, and I think, to be honest, it's anybody's guess. But hopefully you've enjoyed the race tomorrow, and I'll see you in the next one.